Okay, so we are ready to purl. Purling is the bane of knitters' existence, or at least I think it is, until you find a good purling solution, like just kind of how you're going to purl. I have watched so many different videos, and just about everybody I watch does purling a different way. So with knitting, you kind of, it's a lot more universal whether you're throwing or you're knitting continental, but with purling you get a lot of different variations. So I'm going to show you my variation, and mine is I learned it from a Craftsy class, which was Knit Faster with Continental Knitting. I'll link to it below. And it was, once I learned that way to purl, it worked perfectly for me. It is very efficient. It's perfect for my grip hold, you know, my yarn hold. It's just absolutely wonderful. I love it. It's the best thing since sliced bread for me. If you like the way it looks and want to learn how to do it even better than me, go and check out that class, because it will really give you some great pointers on how to keep your stitches even, all this good stuff. But for me, I love this hold. So the first thing we need to do, of course, is start making our stitches. So you'll see that my yarn is now in the front. So this actual way that I'm purling makes it very easy to go from knit stitch to purl stitch. So a lot of different kinds of holds. It can be kind of a pain to have to do a knit stitch and then a purl stitch, especially like when you're doing ribbing. So, but this one is very easy. I'll do like a row of knit and purl so you can see how quickly I can switch between the two. But try it out. I always say with any like new muscle memory type thing, give it a good go, you know, work on it for a couple of hours, and if it's just still not feeling right, try something else. But this one really, like within the first couple minutes I tried it, I loved it, so we'll see if you like it too. But to begin a purl, we have our yarn already set up with our cast on. You're going to take your other needle and you're going to insert it from the opposite side that you insert for your knit stitch. So for the knit stitch, we come from the left and go through. For the purl stitch, we're coming from the right and coming in front of our needle. So the knit stitch goes to the left and behind the needle. The purl stitch is coming from the right and going in front of the needle. And just like a knit stitch, you have to wrap your yarn around before you finish, and it's going to be the same way as with the knit stitch. So it's going around counterclockwise, whereas crochet we go yarn over clockwise. So that's the biggest thing to remember, is that you're counterclockwizing your yarn. Now the way that this works for a purl stitch, because if you just kind of start bringing your yarn through, you can see that you've got no grab to this. So what you're going to do with your finger, everything's going to be done with just moving this finger. So that's why it becomes very efficient with this hold, because you're going to wrap it and then bring your finger down. And when you bring your finger down, that yarn over is going to get pulled all the way to where your loop is that you're trying to get through. So it's a lot easier to pull through that loop. And you can see I have it attached in the back here, and then I can just easily slide off my loop. And then your tail always wants to jump to the front on that first stitch. Again, I bring my needle, I'll pull this down so you can see it easier, bring the needle into the front. So the more you bring it up, the easier it is to wrap around. So you can bring it like this far and try to wrap it, but it's just not going to work. So bring it nice and far up so you can wrap it easily, and bring your finger down. So you'll see that my hook, I did it again. I keep trying not to say crochet terms. My needle goes up and my finger goes down to grab it. And then even if you need to, you can grab the yarn because it's all the way pulled down. I can get my fingernail in there to hold on to it if I need to bring my needle up and then that stitch off. So because I'm doing this really slow, that's why I have to use my fingers to kind of help me pull my stitch off. But as you can see also with my cast on, I have a nice wide area. Almost lost my stitches. Thank you, bamboo needles. I have a nice wide area to be able to move my needles. So if all of my stitches were cast on super close together, I'm going to have this tight little area to be able to work my stitches. So always give yourself some room between each of those stitches and you'll be able to work into them much easier. So again, we push in, cross over, bring the yarn around. So you see I kind of use my needle to kind of help me, and then I bring it down, bring it up, and pull off. So if I'm doing this normal speed, just so you can see what it looks like. And you see that I'm kind of, as I go, I pull my yarn over here and I push this yarn up. It becomes very easy to work these stitches. So I want to pull these down as I work them for the same reason that I separated my cast on stitches. I want to create a little bit of length in between each stitch. If I keep letting them stay all scrunched up as I work them, the tension on my yarn is going to make these loops smaller and smaller, and I'm going to have really tight stitches. So when I turn and I try to work into them, they are going to be really tight. So as you're working your stitches, so always your yarn is always in the front for the purl stitch. As you're working them, so again, you'll see that I kind of scissor it. So I bring the two needles together kind of in a scissor motion to be able to grab that loop, bring my finger down, pull through, and then I grab with my other finger to start pulling it down my needle so that it's on my shaft. If I stop here on the taper and pull on my tension, it's going to make that loop tight as well. So you want to pull your stitch onto your shaft and then slide down your others as you go. So sometimes you can get like a lot of them all at once. You can get like 10 stitches, especially in smaller yarn. Just take a second and rearrange yourself and pull these down so that they'll spread out. Okay, so again, let's see if we can do kind of a different angle here. We push through, and you'll see my yarn is already kind of up over here, and then I'm going to scissor, so I bring this needle towards my other needle. So I bring it towards, then push my finger down. Now I've locked in that loop, and you can see it's already below this loop, which means it's not going to fall off when I bring, let me bring that back over here, so it's not going to fall off when I bring my needle through. So you see here's my loop, push it and get the last one off. So as I work each of these stitches, you'll see I have a loop on this side and I have a loop on this side. That was the loop that I put my needle through. I have to pull this loop off to start my next stitch. Again, here's my loop I just entered. I wrap around, pull that off. Here's my loop. This is the loop I entered. It's still on my needle. I have to pull that off. Let's try looking at this angle here. So this is my slip knot. Still easy to get into. So let's look at this way. So I pull through, push it to my needle, and then pull that needle off. And then take a look at my little purl bumps. So you see my purl bumps, which are these little dashes that are coming across. There's 2 rows of them because of that cast on row. When I keep doing purls on every row, just like if I did knit stitches on every row, I get what's called the garter stitch, which is these little bumps across on both sides. So you'll see when I do this next row. So on the back side, it looks like a knit stitch. So that's how you create stockinette, because you're doing the opposite on each one. That'll be the next video, so don't worry about that too much. But after this row, you'll see the ridges on both sides. So my yarn is already in the front, so I'm good to go for my next row of purls. So I'm going to kind of push my stitches all together, not too far. This helps out with the bamboo because on the aluminum or the nickel plated metal needles, when you start pushing, they'll just keep going. So you got to watch out and really take it slow when you make that switch. So anyways, let's get back to purling. All right, so we have our needle. We're inserting it in from the right to the left. If you are left-handed, it's going to be left to right. Then we yarn over, make our scissor motion, bring our finger down, and pull through, just like we did before. If you're concerned that your edges look crazy, so as you practice this stitch, I'm kind of going just a little bit faster so you can see kind of the motion of everything. So when you go slow, it's a lot, it's good to see like where everything is being placed, but until you see like the normal rhythm of everything, it gets a little confusing what's going on. But your edges, as you make your rows, you may notice that your edges are a little crazy and wonky, that they're kind of loose and they have big loops on them on the end. Don't worry. I have that too, and it's just kind of, they always say, don't worry about it, it's just, you know, beginners, and it's true. Like I didn't consciously try to fix it, it just fixed itself. So as I did lots of knitting, I noticed that the edges just started to get better, and it's just kind of practice. I don't know how to explain it any better than that, but as you go, your edges will get more and more in line. They just will fix themselves. If you can't, like if it's just not happening for you, they always have where you can slip the first stitch, and what that does, so if I just slip this stitch instead of working it, so hold on here. So I slip it and then I do a purl in the next row. What that does is it keeps all those extra loops out of there. So it's just pulling it up, so it ends up tightening your edge all the way. So if you can't get, after tons of practicing, if you still can't get your edges looking good, just slip those first and it's going to give you a nice tight edge. So that's one thing you can do if it's not working. But I think if you just keep on practicing, it's going to get better. So I'm just kind of doing this fast so you can see. So again, let's look at the way our hands are working. So our tension, this is the most important part. You want your tension not too high, so you don't want your finger like all the way up here, because bringing it down is going to be impossible. So that's why I had to like work on my tension. The way that the way I hold my yarn for crochet will not work for this. I hold my yarn like this for crochet, so I cannot do a purl stitch like this because it's just impossible. So I had to come up with a hold for knitting to be able just to do this purl stitch. So make sure that your finger, and this can take the longest, this is what was giving me the most problems, was figuring out what to do with this finger. So I had to come up with a tight enough tension so that my finger would not get too high, because if your finger's really high and you're trying to go down and get a good pull, because you really want to have this pull down a little tight so that it stays on the needle for when you pull your needle through, you need your finger to not be so high. It just makes it really difficult if you have too much slack on there. So you want to make sure that your tension is such that your finger is just kind of a little bit above your middle finger. So you see I have my middle finger holding my loops for the non-working side. This, I'll call this the working side since I'm pulling these off. So I have fingers holding these loops on, my paranoia, and then I'm able to just go very low. I don't have to bring my finger super far down. You can see it's just coming a little bit below my thumb to be able to grip that yarn. Oop, I lost it. And then sliding it off. So I've got all those fingers holding my ends on. I grab that end as I bring it up and pull it off. So I'm good to go for the next one. And it just becomes a nice fluid motion. So it's just all about practice. Just keep on working at it and it will get easier and easier. So now you can see this garter stitch edge going on. You can see the bumps on this side, and I flip it I've got bumps on this side. So I'm going to show you now real quick how I can switch easily from knit to purl. So I'm going to do a 2x2 rib. So it's 2 knits and then 2 purls. So you can see just how quickly that this hold can be switched. So I have my knit stitches in the back, and then I can easily move this to the front where I'm doing my purls. So the most time it takes is just moving my yarn, because I can easily, and this wood, the wood really, it's nice and sticky, but your stitching will go slower. That's why eventually you should make the change to nickel, because it'll increase your speed a whole lot. But for beginning, it's great for you to keep your stitches on your needle. So you can see I just did that row super fast. I'll do one more row since it was so fast. And you can see how I can just easily, oops, switch between the two. Am I doing it? Yep. So it's in the back, now it's in the front. Now it's in the back. Now my yarn's in the front, and my dog is barking. And I do it nice and easy. And I'm gonna go let my dog in so she'll stop barking. So let me finish this row and I'll be right back. Okay, is in. So that is the purl stitch. If you tried my hold and it works well for you, you know, great, keep using it. If it's not working, just go check out some other tutorials, other videos, other picture tutorials, whatever it may be, and try out a few until one will just click. You'll be able to know. It's like, you know, finding the perfect shoe. It's just you put it on and it's super comfortable. So same thing with your knits, your hold. One will just click and it will be super comfortable, and I can't even remember the ones that I did that were wrong, because it's such a distant memory. Once one clicks, you know, it's just automatic, and that's what it is for like ever. So just try it out, see how you like it. Check out my next tutorial, which will be Stockinette Stitch, which is basically knitting and purling together on opposite sides. So I will do that next, and thank you for watching.